We welcome you today as we celebrate this Tuesday, 32nd week in Ordinary Time. And we continue with the letter of St. Paul to Titius. And here that we're kind of continuing to see this prudential guidance from Paul to this probably younger man who has taken on the responsibilities of the episcopate, essentially, and it kind of goes on with a great deal of practical advice. And it's important to understand that this was a very long time ago, and certain structures in society were different, and so Paul is not directly challenging some of these structures here, and some of this advice should be read in the context of the time. And doesn't necessarily, I think, have the most universal value. But other aspects of it, we would say, do speak maybe to every time, every place. And so he's encouraging young men to think of themselves as an example. Certainly young men and women should think about how they demonstrate their discipleship and the example that we set. And all of this is part of the idea of letting our Christian witness set us apart. The word for consecrate, the word that we use for consecration, ultimately goes back to the idea of something becoming holy, and in that being set apart. So something that is consecrated, something or someone holy, is set apart from that which is not holy, or that which is common, right? That which is not in that particular quality. And so we have to keep going back to that as the people of God, that in our baptism, God has set us apart. He has made us holy. And that baptism is like a little candle, like that candle, for example, in a way that we have with our remembrance, that is a flame that can be put out. It can be put out. We have to protect that flame, that grace of God of our baptism. We have to protect it. We have to have a certain zeal for it. And it's kind of sad sometimes the way we squander that flame, right? We're willing to let anything and everything become an occasion of losing that grace of God. And so we're called to protect it. And that's kind of what it essentially comes down to. Protect the gift of God that has been given to us. And then we look at our gospel today. And, Jesus, we're hearing Jesus in Luke, and he is saying this example of having a servant, and that the servant is not really praised for doing his responsibility, his duty, so to speak. And I think implied in that there's more that we can find that sometimes doesn't get pointed out. That yes, there is a sense in which we're created as certainly as creatures, that God creates us, and in that sense there's that very top-down relationship, but God is calling us into his family. Through the cross, we have become the sons and daughters of God, right? The adopted children of God through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And so we are part of the family of God. And in that sense, we are more than servants, right? We are more than servants. But we always have to remember that it is the grace of God that it accomplishes great things in us, in each of us. It is his grace, it is his gift to us. It's not our doing. And so we never can be satisfied with our response to God as if we have done everything we should do or done everything that we can do. We should continue to hunger for more and more of God's life. And in a particular form, that takes place as the hunger to worthily receive the Holy Eucharist, right? Which continues to increase that presence of God in our lives. So I pray as we continue this Mass and this week, that God will help us to have that authentic hunger for his life, and that he will help us to overcome the obstacles, whether it's not having gone to confession in a year or less, or not having our marriage situation fixed up, or any of these things that may prevent us from receiving God's gift in the Eucharist, continuing to be able to be fed and strengthened by this great gift.